Welcome to another edition of the Never Quit podcast. In this episode, I have Ben Delaney sitting next to me. We're going to get right into it. Did you grow up playing basketball?
I did. I grew up in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and my dad was a big college basketball fan. He went to school in North Carolina. So I've had, from the time I was a kid until now, Tar Heels sweatshirts in the household. Now my kids are wearing those. And UNM, University of New Mexico, that was the big game in town. That was the only game in town where there's no professional sports in New Mexico. So going to see the Lobos, that was a thing. So yeah, I grew up just playing at the YMCA.
Did you ever have dreams of being in the NBA?
No.
Oh.
No.
What position did you play in basketball, if I may ask?
Oh, it depended on like what year it was. Like, sometimes I was a point guard and sometimes I'd play like a small forward, or just depending. I mean, that was just like as a little kid, and played up at the high school, and then I got into cycling.
Favorite basketball player, college or professional, all time?
All time, yeah, the GOAT. Like that's hot discussion. I was just reading one of my favorite Substacks is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and he was talking about getting passed by LeBron and what that meant to him, what that didn't mean to him, and I'm dodging the question. I don't know, like, if I have a single all-time greatest player. I like watching the dynamics between different folks. Like a Seth Curry versus LeBron, totally different styles, can both just do incredible things.
So if I cheated, I could say Kareem?
You could say Kareem, sure.
Okay, I'll
Sure.
Yeah. Describe to me what you see yourself as and what you think other people see yourself as. I'm
still defining myself as a journalist, although I don't know if you can be a journalist without a journal. So I went to school for journalism. Did that for years. Thought I was going to work in newspapers if I ever grew up, but that hasn't happened yet. So there's no danger of that. But yeah, I worked for different magazines and websites, and now I'm kind of doing my own thing on YouTube. And so I've been described as an influencer, and that kind of makes me a little squeamish.
Influencer.
So I describe myself as a journalist. If that's true or not, still I don't know. I'm a cycling guy. I define myself as a bike rider, and I like telling stories. I like talking to other people. This is the type of thing I love doing. Just having the excuse to go and ask people questions. That's something that I love about my job.
What's a food that you could never get enough of?
Cereal.
That was quick. Top 3 favorite cereals, go.
I make my own. I mix Rice Krispies and cornflakes and oats and sunflower seeds and raisins and then whatever like fruits and nuts I've got around. So I eat that stuff by the truckload.
What about growing up as a kid before you could make your own?
Oatmeal. We never really got to have like the sugary cereals. Like I had to go over to other kids' houses to eat that, eat the Cocoa Puffs and stuff.
When you hear the phrase, yes and not yes but, does that remind you of somebody? And can you describe to the people what that means?
My wife has taught me to say yes and instead of but. So like just kind of build on things, and you can still be disagreeing, but not be disagreeable about it.
What does cycling do for you mentally?
So many things. I joke about it being therapy in church and my gym. But yeah, mentally, it helps me clear my head. Sometimes I think I've got better ideas than they actually are when I'm out on the bike. I'll be going out for a ride and have ideas for stories, whatever, and come back and I'm sitting there for a while. I'm like, no, those were stupid ideas, but they seemed like great ideas at the time. But yeah, I think fundamentally it just puts me in a positive space. I mean, you know this, like, moving your body helps with your mind. Struggling with depression or anger or whatever it is, like getting on my bike makes me feel better.
Share with us a story that you can recall where you did something in life where you wanted to quit and you're glad you didn't quit. It can be a life experience or just a situation you can pick.
On the bike side, that's one thing that I've appreciated about racing as both an amateur and as a very low level racer back in the day, and then also covering professional racing. Just like the nature of the events is you can't stop. There's no timeouts. There's no quitting. I mean, yeah, sure, if you crash, you can get put in an ambulance. But for the most part, like once you start, you've got to get yourself back to where where you started, back to the finish. And that's kind of a good metaphor for life. I think like once you get going and once you're committed, you got to finish something off. Yeah, I mean, some jobs are like that. You know, you get part way into it and you're like, maybe it's not the most fun thing in the world. Yeah, but ultimately it's more satisfying if you can, finish the story, finish the video, whatever it is. Yeah, I'm kind of flailing here. I don't have like some epic Herculean struggle of something.
These are just random questions. I purposely did
overthinking this.
No, you're not. You're doing great. Like I tell everybody, your answer is the right answer. With all your knowledge of the bicycle and the sport of cycling, is there something you still would like to learn about bicycling and the sport?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm always learning more about both the mechanics of the machine itself as people and companies are developing new things, new technologies. Again, that's another thing I like about my job, is just being able to talk to engineers and product people like, hey, how's this work? How does this work? How does this connect? So yeah, I'm constantly learning stuff. And one thing I've enjoyed with the YouTube thing is being fed some questions. So it's not just questions I have, but sometimes, viewers will ask, hey, how about this? Or like, I have no idea. Let me go find out.
Yeah, I just asked you about a helmet recently, remember?
Yeah. So constantly learning. The same with athletes or physiology.
What is a feeling in your body that tells you to quit when you're on the bike, if you have one willing to share?
It hasn't happened yet.
Savage. Okay, what kind of things do you do for recovery off the bike?
Eat and rest, put my feet up. I'm not nearly as good as you are about like full total body fitness. I can tell other people what they should be doing, but my recovery generally consists of, eating, putting my feet up. I joke about active recovery, having kids. They're a little bit older now, but it's not like there's a perfect workout routine where I go and do 2 hours of yoga and meditation after I get back and drive in the soccer carpool, or my wife's handing me a grocery list. I'm out the door. So that's active recovery.
What are some of the best and the worst changes to the bicycle from when you started up until now, in your personal opinion?
The complexity of bicycles. Like on the positive side, it's cool that bikes are now electronic. That's arguably a positive thing, but it also makes them way more expensive and thus inaccessible for a lot of folks, or just intimidating for people to get into. So that's a problem. And then they're just a little bit harder to work on than a simpler machine. So sort of like a car from 30, 40 years ago, you could pop open the hood. It's pretty basic. And somebody like me could get in there and do some basic things. Open a car that you might have now. And I have no idea, that looks like this studio, just wires.
It's all of a sudden. Give us 3 places that you traveled that you love and why.
Well, again, I'm a small-minded, bike-minded guy, so I just think about places that are awesome to ride. I love the Dolomites in Italy. I think we're very spoiled here in Colorado. I'd love riding the Front Range, riding the dirt roads here, riding up in the mountains. I'd put our roads up against anywhere else in the world. Third place, or a third place, not like first, second, third place, but
They don't have to be in order.
the trio out of Switzerland is ridiculous. Like both the scenery and the roads are like smooth as this table. Smooth.
When you hear Chile, Albuquerque, what comes to your mind?
2 wonderful things.
Wonderful.
I mean, there's, as a proud New Mexican, have to go to the mat against the Texans who think of chili as something that has beans in it. What chili can be a few things, but it's, either a red chili or a green chili, or it could be a sauce from either one of those two. That's what chili is. And if you put beans in your chili, you're doing it wrong.
Ooh, noted. What's one of the most uncomfortable situations you've been in life that you had to work through and you've overcome, or maybe working through now currently?
Yeah, working through now is how to put together pieces of the puzzle to make a complete puzzle of the media landscape is, I don't want to say crumbling, but it's changing pretty drastically. So trying to figure out how to continue doing what I love and what I'd like to think I'm okay at, and continue to make a career out of it.
I'm pretty sure you love many things. Love, so you can hear me clearly. Can you name me 3 things that you love?
Oh, my family. Yeah. My family, riding bikes and eating food. I'm like I said, simple-minded, bike-minded guy.
That's good.
Yeah.
3 things.
Music, books, I'm pretty insular. I like to go out and play and then come back and relax, be with my family and be in my own mind.
When you hear the term never quit, what comes to your mind?
It's life in a nutshell, right? Like I think we all have different struggles at different times, and some of those are apparent to others that you're struggling. Some folks are good at keeping their struggles internally, but everybody's struggling with something, right?
Correct.
And I think part of what depression is getting stuck, and maybe not completely quitting, but just like getting to a point where you feel like you can't be progressing or moving forward. And seeing that with my kids and myself, and so not quitting means just pushing through, and that might not look like success at the moment, but just continuing forward momentum. That's everything.
What is your favorite color and why?
Blue. I don't know why.
You just like blue.
Blue. Yeah, that might be the Tar Heels thing from my youth. I don't know.
You've been corrupted in the mind with colors. So light blue, dark blue. Yeah. Is this a teal or is this a blue?
That's a blue to my eyes.
Awesome. I got lucky and picked your favorite color.
You did.
Who is your favorite athlete of all time, or who is one of your favorite people you can pick? I know that was a 2-part question. Yeah. I'm good at that.
Yeah. Well, a favorite athlete, like I like playing basketball, but I also rode skateboard as a kid, and I love watching skaters. So like Tony Hawk was probably like if you asked me as a teenager, like who was your idol or who's like your favorite athlete, I would say Tony Hawk. But just skateboarders in general at that time, and probably still, I thought I was just blown away by how not just the athletic feats that they could perform, but the creativity to just look at a landscape of like walls and handrails and curbs, and just come up with a concept of how they were going to like launch their body up and onto and down these things. And I found that super inspiring. I still think that's a super cool thing about that sport.
For those who aren't very familiar, you've been a journalist in cycling for over 20 years. I don't want you to stress it too much, but can you name me a couple places that you've traveled and covered races, or even an experience if it wasn't even particularly going there for the race?
Most of my time covering professional racing was road racing, and that game is largely in Europe. So that was part of the treat and kind of the part of the frustration of being based in the U.S. Is you got to get to Europe to cover in person the racing. So, the Grand Tours in France, Tour de France, Giro d'Italia, Vuelta a España. Those are, of course, incredible to cover. Some of my favorites were and still are like Belgian one-day races.
Okay.
Like Tour of Flanders, and then recently the World Championships were in Belgium, and that whole country is just bonkers for cycling.
I can imagine.
Yeah, so that's people like the Super Bowl comparison always comes up, because like whatever it is, it's like it's the Super Bowl of this, it's the Super Bowl of that. But I think that's a pretty good analogy. Just going there, watching the races where there's millions of people lining the roads, and also just like riding my bike there also too. So that's something that I've kind of pivoted towards in recent years. Instead of covering the best in the world doing something, I'm out there doing it myself at a much humbler level. But I enjoy that, and I think a lot of folks enjoy riding their bikes as well as watching other people.
Oh, I know I do.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier that Colorado is a beautiful place to ride. Can you mention your favorite places to ride? I know there's a lot. Somebody was traveling and they said, which one should I do? Well, for scenery, zen, exercise.
Sure. Yeah, I'll give you some hits, but also like got to throw a disclaimer out there. I'm either in a groove or in a rut. It's kind of embarrassing how little I've ridden in Colorado because most of my rides I'll just do from my house.
Okay.
So like there's a lot of great riding in Golden, which isn't that far away, but I've probably done like, I don't know, 20 rides from Golden in like the 17 years I've been here. So that's a disclaimer. So one, if you were to come to Colorado and you had like, do 3 rides, one that is all time is Old Fall River Road in Rocky Mountain National Park. You can do that. A common place to do that from is Estes Park, which is, high up on the mountains. That's at like over 7,000 feet. And that's like the gateway to the Rocky Mountain National Park. And Old Fall River Road is a dirt road. It's one-way traffic only. And if you get there like before Memorial Day, there's like a certain window when it's closed to cars.
Okay.
So you can ride.
I've heard about that.
Yeah. Oh, you got to do it, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, this, takes a couple hours to climb up, and you're climbing up, subalpine, alpine, and then you get to the Alpine Visitor Center at like over 11,000 feet. And then you get to come down on the paved road. So that's a treat. Definitely one to do on a warm day. What else is good? Yeah, anything north of Boulder, dirt roads north of Boulder. That's just world class there. And then Peak to Peak Highway is probably another one that's kind of akin to like a Blue Ridge Parkway in North Carolina, where it's people do live off of it, but it's like a road created in part just for the scenery. And there's a big wide shoulder and great pavement, and like as the name implies, it kind of runs on the ridge of the Rockies, so it goes from peak to peak. And yeah, that's a beautiful road.
Are you a fan of music? If so, what kind of music?
I would say yes. My kids would say no. And they say no because the way I listen to music now is that I just turn on KCRW and listen to this show, Eclectic 24. So like when I lived in California, I got turned on to a DJ out there, and it was, Nick Hargrove Morning Becomes Eclectic. And it was like a 2-hour show, and now it's like a 24-hour thing. And I just love the diversity of the music. I have no idea who the artists are. It's just on, the music's on. And unlike a lot of like radio where they play the same 4 songs over and over, this has like a just crazy diverse selection. So I love that. I enjoy that. And I've got a few artists that I'll queue up from time to time, but my kids would say, no, Dad doesn't like music at all, because, they have tons of playlists and they know every artist, they know every lyric, they know the song, the album, like they're dialed in, which is how I used to be. But I'm not that way anymore. So they would say, no, he doesn't know anything. He doesn't know anything. He doesn't like music. I'm like, that's fundamentally not true. I love music. I'm just kind of ignorant now.
On a bicycle, music or no music?
Usually no music. Yeah, usually no music. Sometimes I'll ride with the like wireless headphones. But since I don't have, and this is like giving my kids ammunition, since I don't have a lot of music on my phone, I don't have the means there. Once upon a time when I was trying to race pretty seriously out of college, I remember having like mini MP3 discs.
Mm-hmm.
Not MP3. What are those called?
It was called mini disc.
Mini disc.
They were sideways. Yes. They were square about this size. It looked like a CD was on the inside of it.
Yes.
Had a little silver component that flipped over on the inside.
Yes. So I bought one of those for my buddy Tim, who was the guy that got me into cycling. So I go for a ride and have like all those stacked up in my pockets and like wires coming out everywhere, and we'll just get into some like hip hop or like electronic music to get going. But
they said the music gets the people going, right?
Yeah, it does. It's powerful.
Share with the people where they can find you. I know you briefly talked about your YouTube channel called The Ride. Can you make people more familiar with that and share with the people why you make these platforms?
Yes, thanks for asking. So it's the YouTube channel is called The Ride with Ben Delaney. And that's YouTube.com/Z/ The Ride with Ben Delaney is where you can find that. Why I make that? A couple things. One, like we've been talking about, I love storytelling. And The video is a new challenge for me. Like I've worked in video for a number of years with other more competent videographers who would put the pieces together.
Okay.
I was like the guy standing in front of the camera, just running my mouth about bikes or interviewing folks. But learning to edit has been a new and fun challenge. So that's part of the why. Another part of the why is I saw video and YouTube in particular as a way to perhaps make a solo career viable. Um, I think I'm more proficient at writing, but I didn't see a way as an individual to just start a website and turn that quickly into something sustainable. And since YouTube is obviously a massive thing, there's in some ways a built-in audience. So that was part of why I went with YouTube.
Can you spell out your YouTube, even though it might seem like The Ride is easy to spell? Can you spell it out? And the other platforms where you want people to reach out to you? Or do you want them directly just to concentrate on The Ride on YouTube?
THERIDE with Ben Delaney. So THERIDE WITHBENDELANEY. Another place to find me is Strava and also Instagram. Those are like my three go-to places where that's where I live. It's where I interact with folks. And Instagram and Strava are both Ben_Delaney. Hope to get a website going. I've told myself I'll do that this winter. It's still kind of winter, right? Still got some time left.
This is a Never Quit podcast, wrapping it up with Ben Delaney. All the information will be in the description box to find out more about this, to see the visual or the audio. Thank you for your time, Ben.
Thanks for having me, man. That was great.
Appreciate it. Thank you.